My wife ordered us a DNA ancestry kit as a birthday gift. 3 weeks later, it destroyed everything we thought we knew about our family. My name is Robert. I turned 43 in February. My wife Sandra bought us both ancestry DNA kits as part of my birthday, the kind you see advertised everywhere, the ones that tell you what percentage Irish you are and connect you to distant cousins you didn't know you had. We thought it would be fun. We thought it might be a conversation starter at family dinners. We did the kits together at the kitchen table, laughing, making jokes about what we might find out. I grew up knowing my family history in the way most people do: names, rough dates, a few countries of origin passed down like worn currency. My father was of German and Polish descent. My mother was Italian with some French mixed in. I had the bone structure for it. Dark eyes, thick hair that's going gray now, the kind of build that looks like it was engineered for heavy lifting in another century. I never had reason to question any of it. Both my parents are gone. My father died of a heart attack when I was 29. My mother passed from cancer 4 years later. I have one older brother, David, who lives in Arizona. We're close in the way that brothers can be when they're geographically separated. We talk, we see each other for holidays. We're not strangers to each other. Sandra's results came back first. They were what she expected, mostly Scandinavian and British, with a small slice of Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry she hadn't known about, which sparked a whole conversation. She was excited. She started reaching out to cousin matches. My results came back a week later. I almost didn't look at them right away. Sandra was at work, the house was quiet, and I was eating lunch when the email notification came in. I opened the app casually, the way you open something when you're expecting a mildly interesting answer to a trivia question. The ethnicity breakdown stopped me immediately. The percentages didn't match anything I'd been told my whole life. No German, no Polish, no Italian. The composition that came back was entirely different, primarily Scandinavian and British, with other Northern European components. Almost identical to Sandra's, actually, which I remember thinking was a strange coincidence before I understood it wasn't a coincidence at all, just a feature of the shared European gene pool. I told myself the tests weren't precise. I told myself ethnicity estimates are approximations, not exact science. I navigated to the DNA matches section, expecting to see familiar surnames, the family names I'd grown up with on both sides. None of them were there. Not one, no matches to the surnames I'd been told were mine. Instead, there were people with names I didn't recognize, clustering around a family tree that had no connection to anything in my history. The closest matches were listed as probable first or second cousins. None of their surnames meant anything to me. I sat at my kitchen table for a very long time. Over the following week, I did what everyone does when they're not ready to accept something. I looked for the alternative explanation. I researched testing errors. I read forums about unexpected ancestry results. I contacted the testing company's support line and asked about accuracy rates. They were patient with me. They walked me through how the system worked. They did not tell me what I was hoping to hear. Then I took a step I'm not sure I was ready for. I uploaded my raw DNA data to a secondary ancestry platform, one that aggregates results from multiple testing companies and has a larger database of matches. If the first set of results was an error, a different database should show something different. It showed exactly the same thing. I've spent 4 months now trying to piece together what happened. Based on what I've been able to construct through DNA matches and their family trees, the working theory, and it is only a theory, because both people who could confirm it are gone, is that my mother had a relationship before or during the early period of her marriage to my father that resulted in my conception, and that my father either did not know or knew and chose to raise me anyway. The people I matched to on these databases trace back to a family from a specific region in Norway that I have zero conscious connection to. I've reached out cautiously to 2 of my closest DNA matches. One responded, a woman who appears to be my second cousin once removed based on the shared centimorgans. She was kind. She didn't have information that filled in the picture completely, but she was kind. She said her family had stories about a relative who had emigrated and lost contact with the family in the early 1970s. That timing lines up. I called my brother David after I'd sat with all of this for about 2 months. I needed to know if he had any memory of anything that might be relevant, whether my parents had ever said anything, whether he'd ever sensed anything was different between how they treated us. David's DNA, it turns out, does match the family history we were told. He is genetically who we were raised to believe he was. I am not. That phone call was one of the hardest conversations of my life. Not because David said anything wrong, he didn't. He was shocked, he was compassionate, he cried, which I was not expecting from him. But hearing it out loud, hearing him confirm that his results and my results were fundamentally different, made it real in a way that staring at a screen had not. I want to be careful about how I talk about my parents, especially my mother, because I loved her and she is not here to explain herself or provide context. I don't know what the circumstances were. I don't know if she was in a bad marriage at the time and found comfort somewhere else, or if there was something more complicated going on. I don't know if my father knew and chose to love me anyway, which would be a kind of love I find very hard to look at directly. I don't know if he didn't know, which opens a different set of feelings entirely. What I know is that I am 43 years old. I have lived an entire life with a name, a history, a set of ancestors, a set of stories that were never biologically mine. I went to a family reunion 3 years before my parents died and stood in a field full of people who I thought were my blood. I heard stories about great-grandparents and immigration and war and survival. All of it felt like mine. Some days I think, but it was mine. The stories are real. The love was real. The man who raised me was my father in every way that mattered, and maybe the word biologically is doing a lot of heavy lifting in a way I shouldn't let it. Other days I think about the cousins I've never met, the family history I was never given access to, the medical information that may be relevant to my health that I've been operating without my entire adult life. Those are the days that are harder. Sandra has been extraordinary through all of this. She has not tried to fix it or minimize it or tell me how I should feel. She sits with me when I need someone to sit with me, and she gives me space when I need space, and I don't know what I would do without her. I don't have a tidy ending to offer. I'm still in the middle of this. I'm still reaching out to DNA matches carefully, trying to build a picture one careful message at a time. I'm still figuring out what this changes and what it doesn't. But I wanted to say it out loud, or write it down at least, because it's been living only inside my head and my marriage for 4 months and it's too heavy to carry alone. There's a specific kind of grief in this experience that I've been trying to find words for and keep coming up short. It's not exactly grief for a person. My parents are gone. I've done that grieving. It's grief for a story. For the particular story I was told about who I was and where I came from, which I believed completely and which turned out to be, if not false, then significantly incomplete. I had a grandfather I loved. He taught me to fish. He called me his fishing buddy. He told me stories about his parents coming over from Poland and working their way up from nothing, and I believed those stories were mine. I believed I was made of those stories the way you're made of the things that happened before you existed. And now I know that I wasn't. Those stories are David's. They always were. I just didn't know that I was standing in someone else's inheritance. Sandra keeps saying that the man who raised me was still my father in every way that mattered. And I know she's right. I do know that. But knowing something and feeling it are different rooms, and right now I'm standing in the hallway between them, not quite inside either one. The DNA cousin I've been in contact with, the woman from Norway, has been generous with her time and her patience. She sent me photographs. Old ones, from the branch of the family I apparently trace back to. Looking at photographs of people I've never met, and seeing my own features looking back at me from a different century is one of the strangest experiences of my adult life. There's a man in a photograph from 1931 with the same jaw I shave every morning. I don't know what to do with him yet. I'm working on it.